Mom texted, "We'll miss your son's birthday. Things are tight right now." I said, "That's okay." The next morning I saw her post, "Best day ever celebrating with the grandkids." My boy stared at the screen and whispered, "Why not me?" I quietly froze every account I funded. By 9 a.m. Dad was outside furious, screaming. The text came at 8:42 p.m. the night before my son's birthday. Just one short line from my mom. "We'll miss your son's birthday. Things are tight right now." That was it. No call. No voice message. Not even his name. I sat there at the kitchen table for a moment, just staring at the screen while Alex bounced around the living room in his pajamas, full of excitement. He was practicing how he'd answer the door when his grandparents arrived, rehearsing it like it was some grand performance. I typed back, "That's okay," and hit send. Then I shut off my phone. He'd been asking about them all week. They were coming. What kind of present they might bring. He even made a card. A whole thing with glitter and a green dinosaur because Grandpa used to take him to the Natural History Museum every summer. That was back when they actually made time for him. Lately it's been different. They started favoring my brother's kids years ago, but I kept hoping it wasn't intentional. Maybe they were just busier. Maybe they'd grow out of it. Maybe I was imagining things. That night, I let Alex help me decorate the dining room anyway. We hung streamers and he made signs. He made one that said "Welcome Grandma and Grandpa" and taped it to the door himself. The next morning I was up early frosting cupcakes when I heard his voice from the living room. "Come here." I could tell something was wrong just by how quiet he was. I wiped my hands and walked over. He was sitting on the floor staring at the iPad. It was a Facebook post from my mom. Public, bright, loud. Best day ever celebrating with the grandkids. There were photos, at least 5 of them. She and my dad were at some resort-style water park with my brother's kids. One picture showed a mountain of gifts. Another had my nephew holding up a brand new Nintendo Switch. In one, my mom had a giant sun hat on and was hugging my niece, both of them grinning like it was Christmas morning. It had been posted 23 minutes ago. Alex just looked at me, then back at the screen. He didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then, almost like he was talking to himself, he asked quietly, "Why not me?" I couldn't answer. I couldn't lie. Something in me shut off right then. I walked into the kitchen, opened my laptop and started logging in. One by one. Every bill, every account, every recurring payment I'd been covering for them. The gas bill. The water bill. The car insurance. Their cell phones. The backup credit card for emergencies. Frozen. Disabled. Cancelled. I didn't do it out of anger. I did it because something snapped. I realized in that moment that they would never choose Alex. They wouldn't make time. They wouldn't make effort. And if they weren't going to show up for him, then I wasn't going to keep showing up for them. The party started at 10 o'clock. Kids began arriving around 9:30. At exactly 9:04, I heard the slam of a car door outside. Then yelling. Loud. I peeked through the curtain. My dad was pacing the front yard, red-faced, arms flying, shouting up at the house like some deranged neighbor. I walked outside and closed the door behind me. He was already stomping toward me. "Are you out of your damn mind? You froze the accounts? You left your mother with no gas money. What the hell is wrong with you?" There were other neighbors out. Some parents had already started parking for the party. I didn't care. I told him I didn't owe him an explanation anymore. I told him he could leave. He kept going. Accused me of being selfish. Ungrateful. He said I was punishing them when they were just going through a hard time. That's when I said it. I told him I didn't consider them family anymore. And if they couldn't even pretend to care about my son on his birthday, they didn't belong anywhere near him at all. He stood there frozen for a moment like I'd slapped him, then turned around and stormed off to the car. They didn't come back that day. Not for the party. Not for the rest of the week. But 2 days later I got another message. This time from my mom. And everything after that took a turn I didn't see coming. 2 days went by. The party had been a success, at least on the surface. The kids had fun, the cake was a hit, and Alex went to bed that night still clutching a glow-in-the-dark yo-yo one of his classmates gave him. But something in him shifted. He didn't ask about his grandparents after that. Not once. Not even when we passed by the photo of them in our hallway, the one I later took down. I thought that was it. I'd made my decision and they had made theirs. Then 2 days later I was loading groceries into the back of my car when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mom, but this time it wasn't cold or vague. It wasn't a guilt trip either. It just said, "Call me. It's your dad." I didn't want to. I stared at the message for a while, then ignored it. I kept shopping, got in the car, drove home, and tried to convince myself that if something serious had really happened, she would have just said so. But something gnawed at me. That night, around 11 p.m., she called. I didn't answer the first time, or the second, but the third time I picked up. Her voice was shaky. "He collapsed earlier today. They ran tests. It's his heart." I didn't say anything. "They're transferring him to the university hospital. He needs surgery. They said it could be days or hours. I don't know." I asked her what she wanted from me. "That's for you." "And I don't know what to do, Rose. I don't have the money. I don't even know if insurance will cover it. I should have hung up. A week ago I might have. But I didn't. Instead, I packed a bag, called a neighbor to watch Alex for the night, and drove the 90 minutes to the hospital. When I got there, my mom looked like she'd aged 10 years. I barely recognized her. No makeup, her hair pulled back, her face pale. She said my dad was in ICU. I followed her in. He looked fragile. Small. There were tubes everywhere, machines beeping, nurses adjusting something by the window. His eyes opened when he heard us, and when he saw me, he started crying. It was the first time I'd seen my dad cry. He kept apologizing. Over and over. Not just for missing the party. For everything. For letting my brother take all the attention. For not protecting Alex from feeling forgotten. For making me feel like I was less. He told me they'd run into debt. That the vacation with my brother's kids wasn't even supposed to happen. But he'd begged them to come, said they'd pay for everything. My parents didn't want to seem poor. So they went. And now here they were. Broken. The doctor came in later and explained the surgery. It was doable, but they had to move fast. The insurance only covered part of it. The rest, about $18,000, had to be paid up front. My mom looked at me waiting. I asked if they'd called my brother. They had. He refused. Said it was time for them to figure things out on their own. Said he had his own kids to worry about. He could have paid for it 10 times over. But he didn't. And I didn't have that kind of money either. But I promised them I'd find a way. I always did. I got back to my car just after 3 a.m. and sat there in the parking garage staring at the steering wheel. The number the hospital gave me was circling in my head, 18,000. Not a penny less. They'd already given an extension until morning to secure at least half. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I made a list. There weren't many options. My savings were wiped last year after the transmission on my car gave out. Credit cards were maxed from school supplies and medical copays. I'd been floating above water, barely. But the car. It was the only thing I had left with any value. A 2019 SUV I'd bought used but reliable. Paid off. I used it for everything, school drop-offs, work, groceries. Without it, I didn't know how we'd manage. But it was worth close to what they needed. The next morning, I drove straight to a local dealer and told them I needed to sell it. I wasn't interested in waiting a week for offers. I wanted the money that day. They lowballed me. I didn't argue. I signed the papers and walked out with a bank check and a sinking feeling in my stomach. I took a rideshare straight to the hospital and handed the check to the woman at the billing desk. She said it was enough for the surgery to proceed. They scheduled it for that evening. When I told my mom what I'd done, she just stared at me. She didn't thank me at first. She didn't know what to say. My dad cried again quietly and reached for my hand. "You shouldn't have done that," he whispered. But I had. And here's the part one didn't expect. It wasn't out of guilt or duty or some self-sacrificial martyrdom. It was because I still believed people could change. And I didn't want Alex to grow up learning how to hate. I spent the whole day in the hospital waiting room watching the monitor, refreshing it every few minutes to check his status. He made it through the surgery. Barely. When the doctor came out, he said it was a miracle he'd gotten in when he did. Another day or two and it would have been a very different conversation. I sat alone in that waiting room after everyone else left. I kept thinking about the card Alex made. Still taped to our door, faded from the sun. And then my phone buzzed. It was my brother. First time I'd heard from him in over 6 months. His message just said, "Saw what you did. You're insane. No offer to help. No apology. Nothing." I didn't reply. But I knew right then something between us had shattered beyond repair. The next few days blurred together. I stayed at the hospital, sleeping in chairs, checking in on my dad every couple of hours while nurses adjusted machines and whispered in corners. He was weak but alive. The doctors said the surgery had gone better than expected, though the recovery would be slow. Months probably. My mom barely left his side. Every time I brought her coffee or reminded her to eat something, she'd look at me with this expression I couldn't quite read. Guilt maybe. Shame. The silence between us was heavier than anything either of us said. On the fourth morning, just after I came back from walking a few laps around the hospital parking lot, I walked into my dad's room and caught the tail end of a conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. My mom was sitting on the edge of his bed, whispering she sold her car. For us. And we missed her kid's birthday for a stupid water park. My dad didn't say anything. He just nodded. When they saw me, they both went quiet. My mom stood up and walked over. I don't deserve to ask you for anything, she said. But we want to see him. Alex. I told her I'd think about it. After I got back home, it was obvious how much everything had changed. I was now walking to work. Taking buses with Alex to school and back. Grocery runs took twice as long. My legs were sore all the time. But Alex didn't complain once. He even offered to give me the $23 in his Spider-Man piggy bank. One night, as we were brushing teeth and getting ready for bed, he asked, "Are they still mad at me?" I told him no, that they were the ones who should be asking us that question. He didn't reply, but a few seconds later he pulled something out from his drawer. It was the birthday card he'd made them. He never gave it to me to send. He just quietly put it away after the party. I stared at it for a long time. The next morning I took a photo of the card and sent it to my mom. I told her Alex wasn't ready to see them yet, but they could write him a letter. If they had something real to say. 2 hours later I got a response. Not a letter. Not a card. They showed up. They didn't call first. They didn't text. Just showed up on a rainy Thursday evening. I saw them through the front window, standing side by side under an umbrella on the porch, like they weren't sure whether to knock. My first instinct was to turn off the lights and pretend we weren't home. But Alex had already seen them. He was on the couch doing homework and looked up just as their shadows moved past the window. He froze. Then looked at me. I opened the door. They didn't try to come in. My dad still looked pale and thin, his face hollow from recovery. My mom was holding a brown paper bag like it was all she had left to offer. She spoke first. "We're not here to fix everything. We just want to say something." I stepped out and closed the door behind me. He handed me the bag. Inside was a worn-out photo album. Old pictures of me, some I hadn't seen in years. Birthday parties they had shown up for. Moments they had remembered. And tucked inside the front cover was a folded letter. For Alex. They didn't ask to see him. They didn't beg for forgiveness. My dad said he didn't expect me to believe anything would change overnight. But he said if I ever did decide to let them back into Alex's life, they'd show up differently. He promised that. I didn't say anything. Just stood there while they walked back to the car and drove off into the rain. That night, I sat on the edge of Alex's bed and read the letter aloud. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't poetic. It was real. They said they were sorry. That they'd been blind to how much their absence had hurt him. That missing his birthday was the final line they never should have crossed. They promised to earn their way back, not assume it. Alex didn't say much. But he asked if he could keep the letter. He folded it up and slid it into the back of his comic book binder. The next few weeks were quiet. No sudden grand gestures. But then packages started arriving. Nothing expensive, just strange, thoughtful things. A box of books about space. A kit to build your own robot from recycled materials. A wooden dinosaur puzzle. Each one had a note. "Saw this and thought of you." Alex didn't react right away. But slowly I saw it. He started smiling a little when something came with their handwriting on it. He even taped one of the notes above his desk. Then one afternoon, out of nowhere, he asked me if they could come to his school play. The same night, I got a text from my mom. "We'll sit in the back. Just tell us when and where." The play was on a Friday night in the school auditorium. One of those sweet, chaotic performances where half the kids forget their lines and parents still give standing ovations. Alex had one speaking part. Just 3 lines, but he'd memorized them for weeks. He was playing a tree. A talking tree. He reminded me constantly, not just a prop. He was nervous the whole week. Not about the part. Not about the crowd. About them. He kept asking, "Do you think they'll actually come?" Not if they'd come. Would they show up on time? Would they stay the whole thing? Would they clap? I didn't promise him anything. I'd learn better. I just said, "We'll see." That night we got there early. I saved 2 seats in the very back row just in case. The lights dimmed. The curtains opened. And they still weren't there. 10 minutes in I stopped checking the doors. Then halfway through the show I felt a shift. A quiet movement behind me. I turned and there they were. My parents standing in the back corner. No fanfare. No seats. Just standing, watching, hands clasped in front of them like they were holding something delicate. I didn't wave. I didn't even nod. I just turned back to the stage. Alex saw them during his second scene. I watched his face. Watched his eyes flick to the back then back to the crowd. He didn't miss a beat. Said his lines clearly. When the play ended and the applause started he scanned the room again, found them, and for a second, just one, he smiled. Outside afterward, there were parents taking pictures and teachers handing out cookies. I saw my mom and dad near the exit waiting, unsure if they should stay. I looked at Alex. Your call, I told him. He didn't say anything. Just walked up to them with both hands in his hoodie pocket and said, you came. My dad knelt down slowly like it hurt. Yeah, buddy. We came. That was it. Nothing emotional. No big hugs. No movie moment. But it was enough for him. They stayed just long enough to say good job and hand him a small wrapped box. A model rocket set with paintable decals. Then they left, no pictures, no attention. Just a quiet exit, like they knew they hadn't earned the right to stay longer yet. Later that night, Alex put the rocket box on his shelf and asked if they could come for Christmas. I told him we'd see how things go. But inside I already knew. Things had changed. Not fixed. Not perfect. But changed. A week later my mom called. She said they'd cut ties with my brother. That when they told him what I'd done, the surgery, the car, all of it, he laughed. Told them I was stupid for helping. That was the last straw, she said. They hadn't spoken since. They started making payments back to me a few months later. Small ones but consistent. My dad got a part-time job at a local garden center. My mom started baking again and selling at the farmer's market. They swore they'd pay off the debt before the year ended. I never asked them to. I never mentioned it again. But they kept doing it anyway. And one afternoon, without telling me, they bought back a used car, almost identical to mine, and had it delivered to my driveway with a handwritten note. We're not who we used to be, but we're trying to be who you and Alex deserve. I stood there in the driveway, keys in my hand, staring at that car. Not because it fixed anything, but because it was the first time I truly believed they meant it. And that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late.